Hello, this is Talon with Old Guy Stuff. And if you have difficulty making an equation from a data table, then this video just might help you out. So what we're going to do is we're going to make our equation in slope-intercept form. And slope-intercept form is in the form of y equals mx plus b, where the letter m denotes slope and b is the y-intercept. In other words, the value of y when x equals 0. So things you'll need some paper and pencil. That's the minimum, because it's always helpful if you actually write them down when you're learning something, because it does help the learning process. And if you want to check your work, you can use a calculator for that. That's always very helpful. So let's begin. Okay, I'm going to have 3 examples. And this data table is vertical, and x is on the left and y is on the right. So that's this part right there. I've got my formula set up for slope. The triangle is actually the Greek symbol delta, which represents change when we talk about math formulas. The b value is the value of y when x equals 0. And we're going to go in this format here, y equals mx plus b. Okay, so let us begin. Okay, I'm going to start by looking at the values of y so I can put the top number to get my slope. Well, as I'm going down, I need to notice that I'm adding 2 to each number. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 2 is 6, and plus 2 is 8. I'm adding 2 going down. So my change in y is 2. Okay. Now, going down on the x side, I'm adding 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. So I'm adding 1. So my slope is going to be 2 over 1. Graphing, it would be rise over run. So as you go up 2, you go to the right 1. That's how that would set up. And so a lot of times in graphing, I would leave this as 2 over 1. But for the equation, I'm just going to simplify it to the whole number 2. So down here on the bottom, where I've got a partial looking equation set up, I'm going to put the number 2 in front of x. Now what we need to do is find the value of y when x equals 0. So on the left side, we're adding 1 as we're going down. 1, 2, 3, 4. So as we go up, we're subtracting 1. 4 minus 1 is 3, minus 1 is 2, minus 1 is 1, minus 1 is 0. So we're going to do the same thing on the right side, though. We added 2 as we were going down, so we're going to subtract 2 as we go up. 8 minus 2 is 6, minus 2 is 4, minus 2 is 2, and 2 minus 2 is 0. So we're just coincidence in this example is that when x is 0, y equals 0. So that's very nice. Okay, so the b value is 0. So when I write this out, it's going to look like this. Y equals 2x plus 0. Now, anytime you're adding 0, you can simplify by not putting it there. But if it's any other value, you have to put it. So in this case, we're going to have y equals 2x. Now, this is where we talk about checking your work. Okay, so I'm going to go with a few values and see if it works out. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to say y equals 2 times 1. And I'm doing this one right there just to see if I'm going to get 2 for my answer. And 2 times 1 is 2, so y equals 2. Oop, already had it written. So on this case, when x is 1, y is 2, that's correct. And it's always a good idea just to do one more, just to be sure. So I'll set this one up over here. I'll say y equals the slope of 2 times, I'm going to use the number 3. So I'll use these right there and see if I get the answer 6. So 2 times 3 is 6. So that tells me that my equation of y equals 2x plus 0 is correct. Okay, I've got 2 more examples. So let's do another one. Okay, this data table looks weird because it's sideways. Now, here's some things that you really got to pay attention to. I've got the variable y up top and x down below. Sometimes x is up top. But when we write slope, it's important to know that y has to be, the change in y has to be the top number of our fraction. It has to be the numerator, okay? So just got to keep that in mind. If x is actually up top, then you have to think of how you're going to change over here, because the change in y has to be the top number. So let's go ahead and go with this. For the y change, I'm adding 1 to each number. 4 plus 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So I'm going to have my change in y is 1. And my change in x, we're adding 2. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. So that means my slope equals 1/2. Okay? So I'm going to put 1/2 in front of my x. Now let's find the value of y when x is 0. Let's go ahead and figure out where x is going to be first. Since I'm adding 2 and going this way, I'm subtracting 2 going that way. So I'll look at these like this. 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. So I'm going to look for the number that's going to go right up in here. Sorry, it's weird this happens sometimes. Okay, so up top, I'm adding 1 going to the right. I got to subtract 1 going to the left, and 4 minus 1 is 3. So my b value is 3. So y equals 1/2 x plus 3. So now let's go ahead and check it. We'll put in a couple sets of values. I'll put in x equals 2 and see if I get 4. So y equals 1/2. That's my slope, times 2. Add 3. That's my b value, or my y-intercept. Half of 2 is 1. I'm going to add 3. 1 plus 3 equals 4. So that is correct. So the numbers right over in here are correct. So let's do one more. How about 6 and 6? That looks nice. Let's try that one. So let's say y equals 1/2 times 6. Add 3. That's my b value, or y-intercept. Half of 6 is 3. Add 3. That's coincidence. And 3 plus 3 is 6. So that did work out. So we're doing good. So our equation, y equals 1/2 x plus 3, is correct. Let's do one more. All right, table number 3, and fortuitous circumstance, in other words, lucky us, the y is still up on top, so that's going to be kind of helpful. Okay, would have to do any weird flipping around or whatever. And my change in y, I'm adding 4 as I go to the right. So I've got 4. And for my x values, I'm adding 1. So it's 4 over 1, so my slope is 4. So y equals 4x plus something. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get our 0 value for x here. And up top, if I'm adding 4 to go to the right, I have to subtract 4 going to the left. So I'm going to end up with 3 minus 4 is going to give me a -1. So in my b value over here, I got -1. So y equals 4x plus a -1. Now that is correct. You could also abbreviate this to say y equals 4x minus 1. Now that's going to be my correct answer. So let's go ahead and check with one of the values. You can use the calculator to check all of them. So let's go ahead and start out with, let's do 3 and 11. That looks pretty cool. So we're going to say y equals 4, that's my slope, times 3. Okay, that's the point I'm picking for x, and minus 1, which is my y-intercept, which is the b value. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 minus 1 does equal 11. So that's what we got to get, and that is correct. So we are done with that. Okay, it's the same process every time you have a data table. You just got to watch and make sure where your y's and x's are in the table. Okay, this has been Talon with Old Guy Stuff. I hope this has helped you out. Have a safe, happy, peaceful, wonderful day, and goodbye.